Brought to you by Penguin Random House Canada.
Heavenly Bodies by Imani Erriu. Read by Jane Collingwood. The Stars. Ariete, patron star of Perses, the king of stars, god of wrath, war and blood, also known as the tyrant. Tora, patron star of Aphrodite, goddess of lust and pleasure, also known as the seductress. Gem and Eli, patron stars of Castor, goddess of spite and trickery, god of riddles, cunning and knowledge, also known as the trickster and the silver tongue. Cancia, patron star of Altaloon, goddess of pain, sadness, rivers and lakes, also known as the weeping goddess. Leon, patron star of Helios, god of pride, arts, prophecy and the light, also known as the revered Lord Light. Vera, patron star of Verde, goddess of earth and decay, also known as the Virgin. Laius, patron star of Concordia, god of love, justice and lies, also known as the beautiful liar. Scorpius, patron star of Neptuna, god of envy, oceans and poisons, also known as the merciless one. Sagitton, patron star of chaos, god of wine, madness and ecstasy, also known as the reveler. Capri, patron star of the sinner's sands, god of greed, money and success, also known as the merchant. Aquaria, patron star of Sveta, goddess of misfortune, air and ice, also known as our unblessed lady. Pycea, patron star of Asteria, goddess of fate, fear and the dark, also known as the slumbering goddess. Chapter 1. Elara Belrive had been able to walk through dreams for as long as she could remember. Some were Stygian black and jagged nightmares. Others were sherbet-painted and cloud-filled, the daydreams of the innocent. Then came the brown, flat dreams of the day-to-day, and the incense-perfumed prophetic dreams, those that the seers throughout Celestia dreamed. She had fallen into the dreamscape of a Helion, she knew that much. Yet, as she crept around the red sand dunes of his dreams, something struck her as familiar about them. Had she walked here before? The colours were vivid and bright, the air dry and hot, so unlike the cool and dark dreams she was familiar with. She saw the back of a male figure, strong and lithe, as he wielded a golden sword, battling against something. But as she crept closer, she saw shadows surrounding him, attacking him, the figure gasping for help as they slowly began to suffocate him. She woke with a start, her surroundings filtering through the remnants of her dreams. A panicked blink showed her only darkness. A coarse fabric itched her cheek, a sack by the feel of it. She had been running down the cobbles of the Dreamer's Quarter, dressed damp with blood, and then she racked her brain. There'd been the scent of dread poppies pressed to her nose, arms around her waist, and nothing. She swallowed, raising her rope-tied wrists to try and remove the sack, but a sharp yank on them stopped her. She hissed, lowering them, and forced herself to sit up as much as she could. She was moving, the clop-clop of hooves and hard wooden slats digging into her back, suggesting she was in a wagon. "If it's money you want, I can give you money," she said, blinking away the fog. There was a faint laugh, and a man with a slightly lilting accent spoke. "We have enough of that." "Then what?" Elara asked, forcing her voice steady. "Are you in league with the Star?" Silence, She slumped back, her last memories before the darkness flittering around the edges of her mind. One moment, she had been dancing with Lucas at her birthday ball, and the next, red starlight, blood. So much blood, seeping over marble, and a scream to run. Her breath began to race away from her, and she forced herself to drink it back in, once, twice, as she squeezed her eyes shut. Into the box, into the box, into the box. She chanted it until her emotions had been rammed down inside of her, a veneer of calm replacing them. She took stock of her position. It seemed she'd been kidnapped. Fucking kidnapped. Aquaria, the star of misfortune, must have been laughing over her shoulder. Elara blinked, forcing herself to remain present, to gauge as much as she could of her surroundings. The memories of the last few hours rattled, desperate to be let out, but she gritted her teeth as she ignored them. She couldn't stay with those memories right now, couldn't think of home, or she might unravel entirely. Think. How could she escape these people? She checked in with her well of magic. It was awake all right, writhing in the pit of her stomach, ready to be siphoned into her 3. She didn't even bother to try and summon the shadows she was born with. If they hadn't appeared in 18 years, then they wouldn't now. And her dream-walking was useless in this instance, which left her last gift. One she could actually use. "Where are you taking me?" Elara demanded, in a tone as bold as she could muster. She looked down. Light was visible through a tiny sliver at the bottom of the sack covering her head. Shifting herself carefully, slightly increasing the size of the sliver, she could make out her shoes and a pair of heavy boots to her right, all drenched in a Styrian light. "You'll see soon enough." She kept her eye fixed on the soft violet light, the only indication that she was still in Asteria, as she tried to form a plan. All she had to do was wait for the cart to stop, which it inevitably would have to. And as these brigands, whoever they were, attempted to haul her to whichever terrible fate awaited her, she would make her break for freedom. She could do it. She had to. The cart rumbled on, as Elara bided her time, turning over her plan of escape as she softened her body, feigning sleep. Hours must have passed from the way the light began to turn indigo, when a voice broke the silence. "I'm hungry." Elara tensed at the different voice, this one with a similar lilting accent. The first voice, the one that had spoken hours ago, replied in a low tone, "You can eat when we cross the border. Though if you spent as much time worrying about your king's orders as you do what you're going to shove down your gullet, you'd have been promoted by now. It's your own fault you're not in the king's guard." There was a muttered response as Elara picked through the conversation. King? Border? Dread crept up her spine. They were taking her to Helios. It took every ounce of control within Elara's body not to struggle then and there, as she realized she was being led into enemy territory. Not just by some bored Asterian thugs, but by Helions, soldiers by the sounds of it. The force who had plagued her kingdom with raids and blockades for years, who had encouraged the rest of the world to shun her people. All thanks to the man at the helm of it all, the one who had waged the war on darkness against her father 2 decades ago, King Idris Doro. "You know, for one of the king's guard, you're not the most adept at espionage," she said. "Shouldn't you be? I don't know, guarding your king?" There was a beat before the first voice, the leader, she assumed, replied. "What makes you think we're the king's guard?" "You don't exactly use inside voices," she replied. There were muttered curses, enough so that Elara counted between 5 or 6 other people within the cart, before the leader spoke again with a note of finality. "No more questions." "You may as well save us the journey and drag me outside to kill me now," she said. It would be death, or a fate far worse, if she set foot in the Palace of Light. So if there was any chance of escape near the border, she'd take it.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?